Unless you've been living under a rock, you now know that the Chicago Bears have their new head coach in Ben Johnson. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the players that benefit the most from Ben Johnson becoming the head coach of the Chicago Bears and who, both in the coaching staff and from the Lions roster, could be coming over with Ben Johnson. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So the Chicago Bears have hired Ben Johnson, and most of the Chicago Bears fan base is excited. There is some trepidation from a segment of Bears fandom, make no mistake about it. He's been with the Detroit Lions, their offensive coordinator, for the last 3 years, and some Bears fans are looking at it as, did the Bears get the hot name, or do they actually get somebody who's going to be a great head coach? That's only going to be really told on the football field, so we don't really have the answer to that yet. And, at the same time, while I have my own, pessimism, it's not about Ben Johnson, it's more about, hey, I just need to see it happen on the football field. I understand some Bears fans are looking and saying, hey, is this the right guy? And ultimately, I said it before, whenever the Bears did make their decision on the next head coach, that there was going to be, there's some fair questions and analysis that needs to happen over all of it. I'm going to hold out my ultimate judgment until we see what's happening on the football field, until the Bears start winning games, things like that. But I do say this, the Bears did something we've just not seen them do very often. They went out, or ever, they went out and got the hottest name on the coaching market, and they did so fairly quickly after his team's season officially came to an end after a playoff loss. They interviewed Eddie George. Then the next day, they officially hired Ben Johnson without having an in-person interview with them. And when you look at Ben Johnson and the way that he's talked about, people have already said he's a perfectionist, right? He's somebody who is meticulous about the way he goes over, game planning and things like that. Now, that's going to have to be broadened out some with him becoming the head coach now. He's not going to be able to just focus on the offense. He needs to make sure he has his thumb on the defense and what's going to happen there as well. But that's why hiring the right defensive coordinator is hugely important, especially for a first-time head coach like Ben Johnson, to make sure that they get a coach in here that's going to be able to coach that defense, coach it up, and helping what that team's trying to do, right? So when it comes down to that, I'm not mad at that at all. Cool, good looks to Ben Johnson. He's bringing something that this Bears team needs. And there's also going to be the question of, okay, do you now have that leader of men mentality, right? That the Bears have so often said that they want in their next head coach. There's going to be another thing that we are going to see. He's worked under Dan Campbell, and that's a nice 1-2 punch. But you're going to have to see what Ben Johnson's on his own voice is, because he's not going to come in and be Dan Campbell. I don't want him to come in and be Dan Campbell. I want him to come in and be the best version of him that he's going to be able to sustain. I don't want him giving a coaching impression. I want Ben Johnson to develop his own coaching voice here. And that's what we're going to hope to happen when it comes down to it, right? Yes, the Commanders' losses brought some questions on Ben Johnson and things like that, but ultimately, hey, we'll see, right? He's going to have his challenges as a head coach. And much like I said after we drafted Caleb Williams, and I try to implore everyone to have a little patience, he's going to have, the typical rookie head coach's mistakes. He's going to make some of those mistakes. And I said that about Caleb Williams. He's going to make some normal rookie mistakes. People were like, well, if he's generational, he's going to have normal rookie mistakes. And Ben Johnson's going to have that as well. The question when it comes down to it is how much is his skill set, and also how he uses the roster, those type of things, what we see. I don't want Bears fans to go ahead and panic if Ben Johnson doesn't come in here and we don't rattle off the first 6 or 7 wins of the season. There may be some struggles. There may be some learning curve. Of course, training camp, mini camp, those things are there to help overcome that curve. But, it's going to be there a little bit. We're going to see him make some mistakes when it comes down to it. Now, as far as, the defensive coordinator, we've kind of gotten word on who that may be when it comes down to it. And we'll see, who that ends up being. for him. But I think overall right now, Ben Johnson is a good fit for the Chicago Bears. That just is what it is. He's a good fit for what it seems like the direction of this roster is going. Now, we got to see if he's going to be able to bring it all out of there. But bringing in Dennis Allen as your defensive coordinator, we've also gotten some word that he may be bringing over some other people to kind of help with this curve and what the Bears are going to do, right? The offensive line coach and Hank Fraley also is rumored to be coming over here with him from the Detroit Lions. And listen, this is a guy who, I tell you what, listen, if he can come in and help develop offensive linemen better than what SEMO has, I'm not mad at it, right? It being said this from Fox Sports, there's been a lot of conversation over the last 48 hours that there have been a lot of closed-door meetings and a lot of work behind the scenes. Hank Fraley is a name that comes up quite often as someone who may go to Chicago with Ben potentially as his offensive coordinator. Now, I know that Hank Fraley was the offensive line coach, but Ben Johnson is going to be calling the offensive plays. And to bring somebody in who's also been a coach on that offense, who's worked under him on his staff before as the offensive coordinator, I think it's going to help get that terminology, that language, that shorthand is going to help with that. You're going to want to bring in people that help and have the same methodology that you do. And I'm not mad at it if that ends up being the case. We already have heard who the defensive coordinator could be in Dennis Allen. If Hank Fraley ends up becoming the offensive coordinator, listen, Ben Johnson is an offensive-minded head coach. I'm not too worried about who the offensive coordinator is. I do want to get somebody that's going to be able to help because Ben Johnson isn't going to be able to focus on just the offense. He's just not going to be able to as the head coach, just like Matt Eberflus could not focus on just the defense as a defensive-minded head coach. But to bring in somebody who kind of you're already used to working with, who already knows the way and the style and the methodology that you like to approach things with, it can help extend your voice as a head coach when he may be focusing on some other things. Listen, that's just smart business when it comes down to it. I know people have talked about like Byron Leftwich, if Thomas Brown could stay on, but Ben Johnson is going to bring in some of his own people that he has a relationship with. And that's not unfamiliar to anybody who becomes a head coach. That's almost standard. So, Ben Johnson already having this mindset. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually start getting some staff announcements as of today. I wouldn't be surprised at. And we'll see. I trust that by the weekend, we're going to have most of this staff fleshed out. And then at that point, the Bears can focus on going through the draft process, communicating on what they want to do, what they want to look like as a team going forward. And that's the place that you want it. But with that said, how does this help the Chicago Bears that are already on the roster? It's already clear how it helps Caleb Williams. I think most people understand why Caleb Williams is a big part of why they wanted an offensive-minded head coach, right? We've talked about so often how the Chicago Bears quarterbacks either have a change of offensive coordinator, change of head coach, and it's just that revolving door. So getting somebody with the singular voice in and that's going to be able to help Caleb is the most important part of that. So yeah, you look what he was able to do with Jared Goff, and Jared Goff, we know who and what he is, right, in the regular season and in the playoffs, but he was able to get a lot out of that, right? And so he was better under Ben Johnson in a lot of ways than he was under Sean McVay. And that's not to say he was bad under Sean McVay. He wasn't, but he was a little bit better in just understanding the strengths. And that's the one thing that Ben Johnson really brings to this. He understands how to use the strengths of your players and overcome some of their weaknesses with strengths of the other players. He just understands how to ebb and flow that. And Caleb Williams is really going to benefit from that hugely. And the development of Caleb, as we all knew coming into this process, was going to be at the forefront of it. So you get to bring in that guy who is probably the biggest winner in all that. But then let's not overlook it at all. Let's look at how Ben Johnson also used Amon Ra St. Brown. Why did I just completely murder his name? Amon Ra St. Brown, right? So now you're kind of looking at either DJ Moore or Rome Odunze being in that role, right? When you look at him being able to play on the inside and outside, right? That's how Amon Ra St. Brown was used. And so now you're going to be able to kind of get back to using DJ Moore in more creative ways. We've talked about it. Most of what the Bears do are all on the sidelines. We don't attack the middle of the field enough. We don't do things like that. Ben Johnson is going to be able to bring that back out, and therefore using DJ Moore and bringing out the best in him and Rome Odunze. We'll see what happens with Keenan Allen. I trust that Ben Johnson's going to be able to do that, and I think that he's going to be able to find a way to scheme getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers. I also think that Cole Kmet is going to benefit hugely from that. You look at how the Bears did try to get creative at times using Cole Kmet, having him line up as a receiver at times, right, to take advantage of that. We've seen kind of it go away and him being used kind of more straightforward. Ben Johnson's going to use that very creatively. And I think even if Jared Everett is still around as well, we can actually see some of those two tight end sets we initially thought we were going to see under Shane Waldron. We could realistically see that under Ben Johnson, right? And I think that's a big thing in this as well. And then also he's going to understand how to use DeAndre Swift. Not to say, the people have talked about could the Bears get another running back in this draft? That's possible. But I think he's going to be able to scheme and use those guys correctly as well. And if he's also bringing in Fraley as his offensive coordinator, that means that the offensive line is going to get a little bit of a boost hopefully as well. But one of the biggest people that benefited from all of this, and make no mistake about it, this may be some triggering from some Bears fans, is Ryan Poles probably extended his job here. Ben Johnson reportedly wanted synergy. He didn't want to come into a situation where he had to worry about the GM being changed a year or two into his coaching tenure, right? And so this is probably going to get Ryan Poles an extension eventually. Now, I don't know if it happens here soon in the offseason. May not happen to the middle of the season. Hell, we may not even hear about it because reportedly Ryan Poles may have gotten an extra year on his job that we didn't know about before. But if Ryan Poles, he got his quarterback, he now went out and got his coach, right? Yes, he decided to hire Matt Eberflus. He also decided to keep on Matt Eberflus in the offseason. But now he got to go through his coaching process and get his coach that he started that process from top to bottom. There's going to be something about him being able to stay around, right, and get things done, especially if this team is looking like they're going to have some success. This could have saved the perception of Ryan Poles, but also extended his time here for him to keep doing the work that he already started on. Ian Cunningham apparently isn't going anywhere, so he's still going to have his right-hand man with him, at least for another season as well. And it seems like that's going to go around. Now, Ryan Poles, Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, the rest of this team, the coaching staff, the players, get to now try to focus on turning the Chicago Bears around. And that's what we've wanted for so long. Can we actually turn this thing around and get us all on the same page so we can start having a team that actually looks like something that's trying to do some shit, right? Can we finally have that team? That's the hope. All right, so before we get into the mailbag, I do want to get into another topic on what players could come over with Ben Johnson to the Chicago Bears, right? And I think that we have a number of players that make some sense, right? One of them is Dan Skipper. You look at Dan Skipper and what he's done in Detroit, right? He's been with the team since 2011. He has only 11 career starts, but he's somebody that has been here with Ben Johnson the last 3 years, right? He started in place of Lyman before, and he can help really be that first lineman off the bench for the Chicago Bears. And he's already rumored to want to follow Ben Johnson because how he uses him. You look at how we have that he would add some reliable tackle depth to this team. He'd be the sixth lineman. He's been in that role before. The one thing I would not want Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears to do, though, is to look at Dan Skipper and be like, bam, the starter. No, we need better starters. But if you add that depth, that quality depth to the Chicago Bears, that can definitely help this offensive line hugely. And that's something that we need here as well, right? The next up, Kevin Zittler as well. This is another guy going to be 35 years old coming into it, right? And there's some rumors that he could be looking at retirement when it comes down to it. But I think when you look at where we are with the right guard position, if we're able to bring him in, right, he may be somebody as well that could follow Ben Johnson, understand the scheme, and definitely helps change the quality of that offensive line for the Chicago Bears. That's something else that I want, right? I think that if you can bring in Kevin Zittler and Dan Skipper to this team, those are two people that help the Chicago Bears and this offensive line hugely. They help it a lot. They help up that standard, and they help get us to a place where we need to be with this offensive line, and that's competency. Right now, I still think you need to go out, and if these are your two veteran signings, great. But you still then would need to go out in the draft and get some young offensive linemen that can come in here and help. But I'm not too mad at these two guys. Big bodies, guys that have performed, and they've been on playoff and really high caliber offensive lines. The one thing I just don't want Ryan Poles to do is look at that and be like, bet we're cool. I don't think that Ben Johnson would allow that, but that's definitely something. And then the last player, especially if the Bears don't keep Keenan Allen, that I would like the Bears to take a look at is Tim Patrick, the wide receiver who was with the Detroit Lions. He had 394 yards and 3 touchdowns last year, playing in 16 games. But if you look at the 2 years prior to that, 742 and 734 with 5 and 6 touchdowns respectively. This is a guy, especially as you're looking to maximize, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet. I like the acquisition of Tim Patrick as well with this team. He only played 1 year with the Detroit Lions. He was with the Denver Broncos before them. But he's solid body, 6'5", 210 pounds. This guy can be used in the slot. And I think he could thrive in that place. And he'd be a lot cheaper, for example, than a Keenan Allen. So three players that were on Ben Johnson's team before that have played under him that I really think that the Bears should really take a hard look at to see if they can bring him in here to this team. But you guys can let me know how you feel on those down below. All right, with that said, we're going to go ahead and get into the voicemail bag. The first voicemail, this one's from Marifa Asa.
Bobby, C-Dub, hey, some cognac boys. What's happening, fellas? It's your man, Marifa Asa, black yet again, man. Listen, the selection is made, and all I know is his ass better be better than Sean McVay. That's all I'm going to say. Look here, Ben Johnson is in the building, and there's never been two people more hyped in Chicago history than Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. The entire city of Chicago wanted both Caleb Williams and they wanted Ben Johnson, and they got both of them in the Bears organization right now. I expect nothing less than multiple Super Bowls. Started with one, okay? Now, Caleb said it on the St. Brown's podcast that he wanted Ben Johnson, and he told him, right? He told the world who he wanted, and all of the fan base wanted the same thing. Now, the job begins. Polls got extended. Johnson is here. Caleb is the quarterback. I expect nothing less than multiple Super Bowls, okay? Nothing less, all right? It's time for the Bears to start winning. And the excuses is over with. We got a winning organization. Ben Johnson is 38 years old. Caleb Williams, 22. And Ryan Poles is 36. That's a winning formula. A young winning formula that can last for 10, 15 years in Super Bowl history. Now, the work begins to get Caleb to be able to be developed into the quarterback that we need him to be. Now, if Ben Johnson can get him to be a timing and rhythm quarterback, that means 1, 2, 3, throw that ball, get in rhythm, and not stand there holding in ball, pity-patting, running to the sidelines, doing that Michael Jordan jump throw in the air. Them days is over. You got to get behind the center, get that ball, turn his back to the defense, turn around, 1, 2, 3, get that ball out. Okay? Now, can Ben Johnson do that? We gonna see. He better do it because I know they paid him $15 million. He got to be the one. So we gonna see what's gonna happen. Now, I'm gonna get up out of here because I got a place to go, got things to see. You know what I'm saying before I leave. It's Chicago up and Ben down, baby. FTB.
Listen, my brother, I am right there with you. I am super excited about this hire. And I think that, listen, the Bears went out and they got their guy, right? They went out there and they were aggressive about getting their guy. And now he's in there and he gets to come in and build something, right? That's what you want overall, is you want a coach that can come in and build a program, right? That's what I've been saying. That's the way that I've phrased it. And I know that's college phrasing, but build a program. Build a culture, right? Establish something. And then we're hoping that Ben Johnson is going to be that guy for the Chicago Bears, that he's going to help develop Caleb, that he's going to get the most out of Caleb Williams and some of the players that we already have here. But changes still need to be made, right? And Ryan Poles now has to, as I said, we got the coaching staff to worry about things like that, but get to work. That's what this is all about now. Now that the distractions are out the way, the questions are out the way, get to work. And that's the most important thing here. Is this Chicago Bears team doing what's needed, doing the work that we can actually have a team that we're looking at, proud of, and we keep it pushing and developing and moving. That's what we've lacked here for in Chicago for so long. That's what we need. Hopefully we now have that in Ben Johnson, and let's go out and get it done. Let's just go out and get it done. It's simple as that, right? Let's go out there and get it done. Now it's up to Ryan Poles to get the players that Ben Johnson needs, the players that he wants, the players that are going to help, take this team further. And like I said in the opening, let's remain some level of patience. That it's gonna be a little bit of a curve, but hopefully we can hit this ground running and make our move. Right? That's what we want to do. We want to make a move. He knows the division, right? He's been a play caller in offense for a number of years. Let's go and get it done. And let's hope that he can get the most out of the players that we've had here that we've been sitting around looking at so long, wondering, why aren't they used this way? Why aren't they used that way? This is going to be something that hopefully rallies everybody together and gets them on the same page. And Bears fans included, especially if we start winning. But all right, y'all, let's go ahead and get into the next voicemail, man. This one's from Keys.
Yo, CBC gang, it's your boy Keys, man, on this lovely Monday. Well, it looks like we got our guy, man, and I'm extremely excited because this is the guy that our quarterback wanted, and, people going to nitpick and say, oh, we should have got McCarthy, oh, we should have got this, we should have got that. Look, it don't matter who you get. At the end of the day, we just want it to work. And the hottest guy, and it's been working for him for the last 3 years up in Detroit, is Ben Johnson. He had actually been there for 5. So he got there before Dan Campbell got there, but they had worked together. So, the experience is going to all work out. But the one player, everybody going to look at Caleb and be excited for him, which is rightfully so, because now I think this will help him flourish. But I think the one player that I get excited for on this offense and how it's going to help him grow is Cole Kmet. I think we're going to see a productive Cole Kmet this year, similar to the last year when we had Justin. And I think it's only going to open up the gate for him. And I think Ben is going to sit down with him and say, hey, Caleb, when in doubt, this is the person that you may need to go to the most. I know you got DJ open. I know you and Rome came in the same year. But this is the guy that, when in doubt, just like they doing in Washington right now with Jaden Daniels, and I commend Jaden Daniels this year, get your ball to the most reliable person on the field who you know is your best check down. Same thing like with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. They still balling to this day. And, now you hear the talks of Dennis Allen. I think for OC, we're going to actually get Mark Brunell or Hank Fraley, who's the O-line coach, to help build that up too. So we're going to see who he brings with him from Detroit. And I'm excited to see it. As far as our defense, man, Dennis Allen would be a really, really good DC. I think his experience as a head coach and knowing how things go, he can apply that pressure. It was a top 8, top 10 defense that they had in New Orleans. With those guys, like you said on the show, I even think it might be a trade coming with the defensive tackle, who I think is one of the best nose tackles in the league, Kalen Saunders, with the Saints. Now, if we can get him, he's a more mobile and better Billings to me. And I think he would help flourish this team. And, I'm excited to see what happened now, man. Now, it's all about the talking, and we got this going on MLK Day, but now it's time to put up results and get these trenches together. But let me know what you think, guys. As always, shout y'all up. Bear down.
Listen, Keys, completely agree with you a lot on what you said, right? I think that having somebody now that can unlock Cole Kmet to get him back to what we saw him for at one point in time, I think that's going to be a really big part and something that helps because Cole Kmet is a weapon, right? And there have been some people that have, that's not to say that Cole Kmet doesn't have his own shortcomings. There's things that Cole Kmet absolutely falls short on that frustrates me and a lot of Bears fans. But one thing that I think we can all be in agreement on, the number of targets that didn't go to Cole Kmet, how out of the game plan he was at time, he's too good for that. And that's something that I think Ben Johnson is going to bring here to this team. He is going to make sure that everybody's involved in this in the way that I think fits their skill set. And I'm not mad at that at all. And so with that, and then like you said, the coaching staff and Dennis Allen, I'm just happy that it seems like to get new people, a new set of eyes that all kind of fits and that have the same similar vision. And let's get it done. I want this team to be intense on both sides of the ball, right? Intensity on both sides of the ball, I think, is really important for a team that you're trying to establish and find your way. That's what this Bears team needs, is intensity. On the defensive side of the ball, let's get back to being the monsters of the Midway, and then let's have an offense that we've never had before. Let's bring something fun, dynamic, new, fresh, that gets everybody involved and the teams have to game plan for. The Bears have been way too stagnant, really, on both sides of the ball, especially at the end of last season. Let's go out there, let's get some dubs, and hopefully we can get some wins in the NFC North, in the NFC, and overall, we start making our move up that division. That's my hope. That's what I hope Ben Johnson brings to this team, and it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to talk about. It's going to be fun to break down, and let's see. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. That's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Go Bulls. Sorry. Chi-Town up. Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.